Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and the Defense Minister of Singapore basically made a very shocking statement during the budget debate in Singapore's parliament. This is so there is a few major announcements, like Singapore is going to buy the F-35, the budgeting of Singapore's military spending and whatnot. But this is actually quite crazy, because in terms of Singapore's official position right now, in terms of Singapore's assessment, the risk of conflict in Singapore's region, which is Southeast Asia, has become non-zero. What's the meaning of non-zero? That means it's not zero. That means previously there was all this, they assess, is there a risk of conflict, of war in Southeast Asia, in Singapore's region? And usually it's no, there's no risk, because things is very peaceful, there is good relationship between all the countries. But now, in this latest, and this is actually a new change, a new reality, that Singapore's position now is that there is a possibility, there's a chance of war in our region. So, and this actually, bolster or actually initiates or push Singapore, motivated Singapore to actually buy 8 more F-35. And this time now, this is the F-35A, it's not the B version. Singapore previously bought 12. That is the vertical takeoff version, like the helicopter they can fly, they can take off straight. That is 12. Now we are buying 8, which is a short takeoff version. So this is like a normal aircraft version. There's no turbofan on the top. So this is a more longer range and can carry more weapons type of the F-35. So this is actually very interesting. And this is the defense minister, Mr. Eng Hen, basically the Singapore defense minister. He has been the defense minister for some time already, so that is already by itself not very usual, not very normal. But anyway, so the defense ministry of Singapore have revised the assessment, that previously the today's generation in Singapore will not see a regional or even global conflict. However, now this assessment has been changed to non-zero in the next decade, which means that Singapore's position right now is that within the next 10 years, there's a chance of war in Southeast Asia. Very, very significant. And this position is not going to be is not being said lightly, because Singapore do not play games. No, we don't talk nonsense, and this is quite scary. And I will talk a bit more about the geopolitics after we go through this article of the region, to explain a bit more about what is currently happening within the region. I know a little bit, so I can share a bit of what I know. So in this statement is actually during the budget debate in the parliament, and so he's referring to Russia-Ukraine war and the Israel-Hamas war. Interestingly, that is how I address these two wars. And also there is some kind of trade war between the United States and China, which this trade war is actually not really much happening, like it's not really much of a trade war right now. So but there is of course competition between the two countries. So they say that there is surprises and unintended consequences that are in store. Some linked, some are completely out of the blue. So the ambient temperature of the geopolitics are rising, and sparks and fire will arise from multiple sources. So this is basically saying that there's a lot of unexpected things that might happen in the region, and some totally unexpected, which we already seen. For example, Azerbaijan suddenly attacked Armenia, and or rather, invaded into Karabakh. This kind of things can come out of the blue, or the Hamas attack against Israel that also come out of the blue. So things are and these are all linked with the increasing temperature of the geopolitics. Things are getting more and more unstable, and this is also why I always say, including especially during the DPA open mic, I always say that multipolarism actually increased the risk of war, and we are now seeing this exactly happening right now. As the multipolar start to compete against each other, particularly militarily, we're going to see more wars. And this is a scary thing. And so if the different poles that is emerging are unable to talk to each other and work things out peacefully, then we're going to see a lot more conflict, which is why the risk of regional and global conflict have risen non-zero, and so this is not an assessment that the defense minister is making lightly. So he said that this current generation of Singaporeans will have more to protect, more resource, but also more resources to do so, because Singapore is becoming richer and bigger, so there's more things to protect. But we also are richer to buy more shit, to defend ourselves. So so if Singaporeans do not and will not defend Singapore, then there's no backstop. So because he says that this is Singapore's position right now, that the Singapore Army do not plan to depend on another country to come to our rescue. And this is clearly a direct effect of the Ukraine war. So Singapore always have some kind of like, we will fight our own war, but of course we always, betting on our allies to come and support us, maybe within a week or two. And the initial fight, of course, we'll fight it ourselves, but we'll expect no other countries to come to our aid. But now this position seems to have changed because of the Ukraine war. The kind of the West pledge or the West support of Ukraine is superficial. Despite of course, the West sacrificed a lot in terms of their support for Ukraine, Singapore is not stupid. We are seeing all these things happening in front of our eyes. You have to understand, despite a lot of people like to claim Singapore is a puppet of the United States, Singapore is not a treaty country with the United States. Singapore is only a partner. It's basically just like Taiwan. There's no obligation in terms of the United States to come and rescue Singapore. As such, Singapore will have to make sure that we are able to defend ourselves. And this is basically the direct lesson we learned from Ukraine. So he says that, there is no more backstop. So that's a simple truth. So we have to, a strong military will be needed to deter against aggression and then keep adventurism at bay. So to prevent any ideas of trying to, be funny with Singapore. So this is Singapore's doctrine, and this has always been the case. It's just that now we're becoming very clear that we are not going to expect other countries to come and save us. And of course, this is also actually the national lesson that has been taught during the history lessons in Singapore, because the British surrendered to the Japanese during World War II without a fierce fight, without fighting to the end. So they surrendered before the fight reached the city, and as a result, this actually becomes part of the national lesson that Singapore learned, that we cannot depend on the Westerners or people from overseas to protect us. And because these Westerners will just go back to their own country to save their own ass, or they will feel like it's not needed to protect us, the people who are in this part of the world. And that's very important, because Singapore was not just any other occupied territory or land that or any other colony. Singapore was the crown colony of the British Empire. Crown colony means that we are fucking important, and this super important place was just abandoned by the British after they just keep retreating when they contacted with the Japanese forces, because they misassessed the strength of the Japanese forces. So they just gave up. And so these are all national lessons. And now the Ukrainian war actually gave Singapore a refresher. And I think that Singapore has revised or realized that betting on the Americans, especially the Americans, are now getting weaker and weaker due to mismanagement by the Biden's administration. Singapore is definitely feeling the discomfort for sure. And so interestingly was the defense budget. Singapore spending per the GDP, we went from 5% in 1998. Yes, continue to drop all the way to 2.8% for 2024. So we actually half in terms of our spending by the percentage of GDP, which is interesting, because you imagine how militarized Singapore is. We used to spend 5%, and even at 2.8%, we far outspend in terms of percentage of GDP by most of the European countries. And the European countries, part of NATO, facing a great threat. The evil orcs and Russians and they are attacking Ukraine and they're going to conquer the rest of Europe. No, don't even spend 2%. And Singapore, in a zero risk war zone, we spent more than 2.8%. And we used to spend 5%. So, and now it's only beyond zero. We are not sure what is the likelihood of war, but it's definitely not zero anymore, the risk of war. So, but that is still 2.8%. The Europeans, I have no idea what you guys are doing, because you guys not even spending 2% on military. So, so all this crying wolf about Russia threat is kind of a contradiction, as far as I can tell. So, this is why I'm always so so irritating when I talk about Singapore military and then talk about Europe, because my reality is so different. We are spending so much money on the defense or military, and then Europe is talking about how dangerous they are in the dangerous situation the Russians are going to conquer, and they're going to expand and rebuild the Russian Empire or the USSR, and then they don't even spend 2%. So anyway, but this also coincides with Singapore. So GDP has been increasing. We are getting more and more money. So we have more money means we have actually more money to spend with a lesser percentage. So anyway, Singapore continue to build our militaries so very well, and they talk about F-35. Singapore buy 8 more. Personally, I think that Singapore will continue to buy more to make it at least 40 F-35 in the near future. So we have 12, they're going to buy 8, that will make 20. I believe that they will continue to buy more F-35As. I don't think they will buy the B version. I think they will buy more of the A version, which is more capable, and make it up to 40 aircraft, and that would be the same number of aircraft in terms of vis-a-vis the F-15. And I'm not sure what they're going to do with the F-16. We have a lot. We have at least 60 F-16s. So maybe Ukraine may be very interested to buy, but we are not going to sell. By the time we want to sell, I'm not even sure if Ukraine is actually a country by then. So anyway, so this is the main thing. So let's talk about the geopolitics. So this is Southeast Asia. In case you don't know what is Southeast Asia and don't know where is it, this is Australia. This is United States. Now this is Russia, and across the sea, across the ocean, of the Pacific Ocean, you get to Asia, and this is Japan, China, and then Southeast Asia. And in Southeast Asia, we have Philippines and archipelago, and then we have a massive archipelago which is called Indonesia, and then we have Malaysia cutting into 2 sides. There is some long history into why this is the case. I don't want to talk about it. And there is Singapore. Singapore is this tiny island over here, and Singapore's military is extremely powerful for such a small little dot. And we have the most powerful air force in Southeast Asia. So this is just to put some context into the situation. And so the geopolitics here, why Singapore have access to be non-zero, why there is a chance of war over the next 10 years. The main hotspot is China. This China threat, people who are, I know a lot of my viewers, they are pro-Russia, and they think that the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of logic. This is actually a very, very bad way of thinking of things, because Russia shares tremendous amount of border with China, and which is China's and they are mutually geopolitical strategical rivals. So and I'm not going to talk about Russia now, so I just want to talk about Southeast Asia. So there is a lot of clashes between China and Philippines, and these clashes is all about this Southeast Asian South China Sea islands, and you can see all the different colors. This denote different countries. The pink one is Vietnam, the red one is China, the yellow one is Philippines, this purple one is Malaysia, and then this blue one, this solitary one is Taiwan. So there's a Taiwanese island with an air base right in the middle of the South China Sea. The reason because Taiwan is also China, is Republic of China. There are claims over South China Sea is the same as the claim of the People's Republic of China. So for those that are supporting Taiwan, also Taiwan is also China. They have their own 13 dash line as opposed to the China's 11 dash line, or 9 dash line. So the Taiwan one is a 11 dash line. Sorry. So anyway, whatever it is, they have the claims. China have 2 islands over here. There's another one over here. So the main clash hotspot right now, to be honest, is not Taiwan. Although there seems to be a lot of pressure putting on Taiwan, but the main hotspot, the flashpoint, is actually Philippines, because Philippines is under severe pressure to protect their Spratly Islands, the few that they actually have control, because the Chinese Navy and the Coast Guard is extremely powerful and very, very assertive. And Philippines Navy combined can't even defeat the Chinese Coast Guard. Don't even talk about the Chinese Navy. So Philippines is now busy doing militarization, and they're buying and a lot of new stuff or secondhand stuff. And not just that, Japan is also giving them free ships. And on top of that, the rest. So this Philippines have there's no win. The Philippines just cannot beat the Chinese military. Honestly, the whole of Southeast Asia can't beat the Chinese. But I'm just saying that Philippines have no choice. They have to protect their own national interests and their own claims. And United States is there to protect Philippines. If I'm not wrong, United States is a treaty ally with Philippines. That's the difference. They are allies. Anything happen to Philippines, United States will be there. So it's similar to in World War II. The rest of Southeast Asia is not the case. Not even Singapore. Despite, like I said, Singapore is always said to be the puppet of United States. It's not the case. We are very close with China as well. So the thing is that we just buy West, because our heritage is that we are a British colony. So and then we are on the we are not aligned, but we're actually still sitting on the western side, the NATO side or the Allied side, as opposed to the Soviet Union in the Cold War. So that's the heritage. But the thing is that because of all this raising tension in South China Sea, Indonesia is massively militarizing, massively. They basically copied a lot of what Singapore have bought, and I believe it will do them really good, because that allows or improve interoperability with Singapore. And Singapore is definitely always preparing for war. We are always preparing for war. We do not take peace for granted. But the Indonesia one is particularly significant because Indonesia is a big country. So them preparing for war to at least deter against possible spillover, I think that is actually a very significant thing. And any war, and Malaysia, they are trying to militarize, but they are in a mess right now. They're still trying to fix their thing because of corruption and mismanagement for many years. So they are trying to buy new stuff, but they are still quite a bit of a mess. So in case you do not know, these islands here, the Riau Islands here, this is actually Philippines. These are Philippine territory. So Philippines islands over here does touch the South China Sea, and the Chinese drew the line into the Natuna Sea, which is this is Natuna Island, and that pisses off the Indonesians so much, and Indonesia sent all the F-16s, many of the F-16s to be deployed at this island. So that was a thing a few years ago. So otherwise, in terms of Indochina wise, Indochina is pretty much heavily influenced under the Chinese, but they are not going to fight for China, so there's no threat for the Chinese around here that much. As long as the Chinese do not invade into Vietnam or deploy into Laos, that's perfectly fine. Myanmar is a bit too far away from our region. They are in a civil war, so that they will do their own shit. It's nothing to do with us. So the main point is Philippines. Taiwan-wise, the main problem with Taiwan in our region is that Taiwan have neglected their military over the past 20 years. They previously was pretty decent. Militarily, they are very similar to Singapore. They also use F-16s. They have conscriptions. They fight the Western style of fighting, similar to Singapore. But Taiwan went on into a more pro-Russian mood, a pro-China mood, and they elected a pro-China president. And the pro-China president eliminated the conscription. So as a result, Taiwan militarily becomes a lot weaker. In fact, I'm not even sure, let's say if this is a computer game and you put the two countries, Taiwan and Singapore, on the chessboard and let them fight each other, I don't even think Taiwan can beat Singapore. That's the problem right now. And so the Taiwanese military is now professional and or a volunteer force, and this is very bad because they are facing a massive giant of a country on the other side. So the risk of war is mainly if Taiwan declare independence. China basically have no more fear of Taiwan, to be honest, in terms of militarily, but China will fear trying to conquer Taiwan because you don't just look at Taiwan like as if it's very easy, like China is so big, Taiwan is so small. The thing is that Taiwan is like the British Isles. It's extremely difficult to conquer an island across a sea, and particularly for Taiwan, this is like Afghanistan. If you look at the terrain here, Taiwan is extremely mountainous. It's no joke. It's super mountainous. So even if the Chinese are able to go in, conquer all these major cities and settlements on the western side of the island, which is where they are not facing the ocean, so there's no monsoon risk. Which is why all the cities are here. The Chinese could face a decade-long or even 100-year-long guerrilla warfare from the mountains, and it's just not tenable. If you look at the Americans fighting in Afghanistan, we know it's just not tenable. You need a lot of manpower to fight with guerrilla tactics, and the Taiwanese military basically designed its military to fight this kind of war, to make use of their terrain. So the Chinese are not stupid. They know, which is why China always kept maintaining that they will not invade Taiwan unless Taiwan declare independence, because China themselves don't even want to go into Taiwan because they can't even effectively defeat Vietnam, which is the same type of terrain. You can see it's very mountainous in Vietnam, and don't talk about Taiwan, where they don't even have an easy supply or logistical resupply route. So a lot of talk about Taiwan, but I say the risk is not there. The risk is Philippines, because Philippines is now facing down the Chinese. Despite of the way weaker navy, they are now actively facing down the Chinese Coast Guard and the Navy, and they're trying to assert their best to protect their islands. These are all the Spratly Islands. You can see these are some military installations. So things is getting very, very tense, which is why Singapore reassessed and viewed the part that there is a possibility of war. Especially United States is getting weaker, which means that they will more likely try to assert themselves militarily. So because of insecurity, insecurity breeds violence. So the United States may stir up shit, or they may become more assertive just to show that they are still the big brother. So these are the risks, and Singapore being not very near but also not very far, definitely is worried. So Singapore, together with Indonesia and most likely Malaysia, is going to form, of course Brunei, is going to form some kind of a bloc, definitely to defend our region and to prevent it from going to war. But whether we will actually enter into war to help Philippines against China, that is very, very unlikely. Super unlikely, because Southeast Asia, there's an organization called ASEAN. So it's like a European Union for Southeast Asia, but we are not so integrated. And our policy is always non-interference of each other's affairs. So like Myanmar is now in civil war, we don't care. Like we try to talk it out, but if they don't talk and don't, then we just let them be, so they can fight their own shit, and then we just take care of our own stuff. So that's the thing about Southeast Asia. So if Philippines go into a direct conflict with China, it's very, very unlikely that the rest of the region will go to war, unless China did something very, very horrendous. or for example, China decided to go to war directly, that means they invade into Philippines, then we're going to see a massive international multinational coalition, and that would definitely include South Korea, Japan, and India, and then that will be a totally different kind of affair. But that is very unlikely because China is not stupid. If they cannot, they have no confidence about Taiwan, they have no confidence about Philippines. So it's all about fighting for the islands in South China Sea, and this will just breed a regional conflict. It's not going to be a massive type of war like the Ukraine war, unlikely, but it's definitely going to have some kind of a skirmish if Philippines run out of patience and decided to assert their claims through military means, or by firing at the Chinese ship, and the Chinese retaliate and take the islands by force. Then we're going to have some kind of a major Cold War or stalemate happening in this region, and it will heavily affect trade. And Taiwan is definitely the first one to be affected. Hong Kong will be extremely very affected, and Singapore being the transport hub will be very affected as well, because most of the trade goes to China. And so it's going to affect global trade as well. So hopefully nothing happens. Hopefully people don't fight over some coral reefs. And yeah. So anyway, this is just analysis of this situation where Singapore suddenly make this official statement that the risk of war in the region is now a non-zero. Thank you for watching. Do press the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next update.